Hey there, Audrey from Maker's Greenhouse, and I'm glad you're here. Today we're going to be putting together some container herb gardens using some herbs that I got from a local grocery store. It is a blustery and cold winter afternoon, so I'm excited to have a fun project to do in the nice warm greenhouse. So come along with me as we put it together. All right, so to get this party started, I've got some organic potting mix that I got from a local big box store. I think it's Whitney Farms potting soil that I'm using here. I've got a shallow pot that our herbs are going to go into. I've got a variety of organic herbs that we got from Trader Joe's. I've got my handy dandy gloves and a watering can, so let's get after it. For this project, I have a nice wide but fairly shallow planter that has adequate drainage, and I've got some organic potting mix. I believe this is Whitney Farms. I think I get this from Walmart usually, but organic just because these are going to be culinary herbs. Try to set us up for success in that way as much as possible. And then I've got a bunch of these nice little live herbs from Trader Joe's that I got here locally. We are going to pot these up and make a beautiful little herb garden in here. I also have a bunch of different live culinary herbs that I got from our local grocery store. And we are going to put them together in this pot to make a cute little patio herb garden to give away as a gift. I'm going to get my gloves on here and we'll get started. I'm going to line the bottom here with potting soil, and this has been pre-moistened, so it's hopefully not going to have any major dry spots, but I am going to kind of work through it just like this to make sure that we aren't working with any major dry spots because we want it to be nice and evenly moist. Okay. So you want to leave just a little bit of room at the top to allow for some water. Ooh, see, here's a nice dry spot I need to grab. Mix that in and moisten it up. Okay, so we're leaving a little bit of a lip just so there's some space for watering between the soil level and the top of the planter. Leave that to the side. Now, we'll start out with basil. The thing about these plants that you get from the grocery store is that what we're actually looking at is multiple plants in one container. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to separate this out, just really gently tease apart the roots to get a couple of different plants out of a single container. So for instance, here's one little baby one. See if I can just work it apart here from the others. Oop. So we'll put that one to the side there. We'll have this one be a separate one. Okay. And we'll do the same with our rosemary. There we go. Try and separate all three of these. Okay. I think I'm going to set this one to the side. Now look here, and we've got a couple extra
in here as well. I'm gonna be super gentle here. These roots are a little bit more tangled. Finally, we've got some parsley. Ooh, all right. You can see here that each of these individual stems is a little plant. So in order to give the plant the best chance possible in the container, we want to separate these out so the roots aren't competing with each other the whole time. But while doing this, we want to be cautious not to completely destroy the plant's root system. Oh boy, these are quite tangled. Gently tease these apart. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to be using at least one of each type of plant. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, do I like the roots better on this one? I think we'll do this one. Just going to slide a little space that would fit the root ball into the pot and nestle it down into that space, and then tamp down the soil around to make sure there's no air pockets around the root ball that we just put in. I'm going to do the same for our other herbs. Okay, so I sunk that one a little too low. So I'm going to lift that up because you want the soil line of the plant, the new plant, to match the soil line of the pot that we're in so that we don't go too deep or leave the root ball exposed by going too high. I'll try and learn from my mistakes in this one. Okay. So now that I've got that in, you can see here that these are pretty top heavy and a little bit floppy, which is totally okay. I don't expect too much from these because it is wintertime and they've been grown off in to be sold for live herbs at a grocery store. So what I'm going to do is collect these. I'm actually going to take a minute and snip these down to allow the roots to establish a little bit more firmly and to give the plant a chance to put up new, stronger growth that will have a little bit better chance of sticking around in this pot. So what I'm going to do here, you can see some of these plants are a little leggy, they're falling over, not very stiff. And that's not terribly surprising with herbs that were designed to be used in different culinary dishes. that are sold at the grocery store. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my snips and I'm going to snip down some of these herbs to allow for, I'm gonna separate that one up, come on. To allow for the plant to put off some new growth and establish its roots in the soil. Okay, pull these apart if I can. And for these, I'm gonna pull this back a little. You see where there's another set of leaves coming in there? I'm just gonna take off a little bit off the top where I can see there's a node so that it's a little less top heavy. And that will encourage this to become a nice bushy plant rather than just a couple of really long stems. I'm gonna do the same thing over here with the rosemary to encourage a nice full bush rather than a one. You can see here we've got one main stem with a little bit of an offshoot here, but this will allow for more branching to have a nice, like I said, well branched and bushy plant to have a lot of stems to cut off of. And then the basil here, you can see I've left the smaller little plants on the sides that will hopefully have a chance to root in and put on some nice growth with a much wider soil base to get nutrients from. So here is the container. And I know it doesn't look like much right now. We've got very little plants and they're looking a little peaky. However, my hope is that after a couple of weeks of nice sunlight and some good water, that these will start to really come into their own as they develop their root systems and put on new growth. I'm going to use the other plants that we were able to section off in another container just like this, so don't worry, they won't go to waste. And then any of the stuff that I trim off, I will use in the kitchen. So hopefully this was a fun little plant experiment to watch for today. If you're anything like me, the winter's starting to drag on, so I always love having projects like this to occupy my time and bring a little fresh, beautiful green into my heart and mind and this beautiful weekend. So this is what we ended up with. We got 2 containers worth. You can see there's a little bit of a variation in which plants we put into each one. You can also see I chopped back some of those really, really far. However, like I said, hopefully chopping it back like that will allow the root systems to establish really well for then the plant to put on good, healthy growth. Because in those little containers that they come in the grocery store, the roots are just so bound up together. There's many, many plants shoved into one tiny little container. And so by separating them out and chopping them down, hopefully it will allow healthy root systems to establish for each little plant that is left, and then they will put on growth as they get stronger and spend a little bit more time in the warm and in the nice soil. And then hopefully those branched down pieces will grow out and create strong, fluffy plants that will be so wonderful to pick off of all throughout the growing season this year. And just in case I forgot to say it earlier, which I could absolutely see myself doing, we've got basil here. We've got an Italian basil. We've got rosemary. We've got a culinary oregano, parsley, and then another basil here, and then the same varieties in that container over there.
I know this container doesn't look like much now, but my hope is that after a little bit of time, some sunlight, some warmth, and some even watering, that the root systems on these little plants will grow and that the plants themselves will put on some new growth and branch out well and start to fill in this container. This is a bit of an experiment because in my experience anyways, the live herbs from the grocery stores generally don't do super well. But it's a good way to spend a rainy January afternoon. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you have any ideas for some fun projects to do in the winter before the growing season really gets going, please let me know. I'm down for all sorts of experimentation. So I'll catch you in another video, but until then, have a great day.